This morning here in St. Patrick's Cathedral we gather with joy and thanksgiving. Joy because we are witnessing in our own time, in our own lifetimes, the canonization of two remarkable young men, Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati. Thanksgiving because their lives are gifts to the whole Church, showing us that holiness is not a distant ideal, but a living reality, that holiness is possible for each one of us, whatever our age, whatever our upbringing or our circumstances in life. And that holiness too is something ordinary. It's not exceptional. Oftentimes we think that the saints were absolutely exceptional people. That's not the case. They were people just like ourselves, with the same thoughts and feelings. And they were able to turn those towards the Lord, so that God became for them their centre, their rock, their source of life. Now, in the Gospel of today, Jesus challenges us with the radical call of discipleship. Anyone who does not carry their cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Carlo and Pier Giorgio understood this call not in theory, not as something that was abstract, but something that they put into practice in their lives. Carlo, as you know, was a modern teenager born in London in 1991 and raised in Italy. He loved football and video games and technology. He was a computer whiz kid, and he created a website that catalogued Eucharistic miracles around the world. But what set him apart was not his talent with technology, it was his love for the Eucharist. He once said that the Eucharist is my highway to heaven. Now, Carlo often noticed how many young people like himself tried hard to be different, but oftentimes just ended up copying the crowd. He warned us that everyone is born as an original, but many die as photocopies. He wanted young people to discover their originality in Christ, to use their gifts, whether in sport, science, art or music, for the glory of God. Even in serious illness, at the age of just 15, Carlo offered up his sufferings for the Church and the Pope. He died in 2006, but his legacy continues to inspire so many people who seek guidance in the midst of the confusion of the many distractions of our age. The other young man that we honour today, Pier Giorgio Frassati, was born a bit further back, in 1901. He was a student, a mountaineer, and a lover of adventure. He climbed mountains with his friends, and after one of his last climbs, he scribbled the words on a photograph of that climb, verso alto, to the heights. And that phrase became associated with his vision and his faith. But Pier Giorgio's real challengers were not only the mountains. They were in the sick rooms of the poor, the shelters of the homeless, the places where the forgotten people lived. From the age of just 17, he joined the St. Vincent de Paul Society, dedicating his spare time to serving the poor, the hungry, and war veterans who were returning home sick and broken after World War I. Now, while he was working for the sick and with the sick, he got polio, and he died in 1925 at the age of just 24. Pope John Paul II, who beatified him, called him a man of the Beatitudes. He lived what we heard in today's Gospel. He carried the cross, privately renouncing comfort and privilege to follow Christ with joy. So Carlo and Pier Giorgio are saints for today. They show us that holiness is not about escaping the world and locking ourselves behind a door, but engaging with the world. Carlo evangelized online, bringing Christ into the digital world. Pier Giorgio climbed mountains, but he also lifted up the downtrodden and the poor so that they could see the heights as well. Both remind us that young people can be radiant examples of faith, of courage, and love. And so I say, especially to the young people who are here with us today, you don't have to wait to be holy. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have everything worked out. All that you need to say is yes. Yes, like Carlo, to daily prayer and the Eucharist. Yes, like Pier Giorgio, to loving your neighbour and serving the poor. Yes, like Jesus, to trusting the Father and accepting his call to you. Now, this is why our upcoming Diocesan Congress on Youth, Family and Faith, which will take place next March in the Armagh City Hotel, is very vital for us. It is a moment of renewal for the Church here in Armagh. We've been listening deeply throughout the synodal process over the last few years to the voices of, among others, young people and families. We have heard them express their hunger for welcome, belonging, and authentic knowledge of God, and also for renewal of youth leadership among adults, but also among the young themselves. Our Congress will not just be another event. It will be a space of conversation in the Spirit, where together we will discern how to hand on the faith more effectively to the next generation. It will help us to ask urgent questions. How do we awaken faith in our young people? How do we accompany families amid the struggles of today's world? How do we renew our parishes so that they radiate hope and joy to the young, but also to all of us? Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati are perfect companions for this journey that we are on. They show us that young people are not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received. They remind us that families are not obstacles to holiness, but are in fact the seedbeds of faith. And they prove that faith is not a burden, but a joyful adventure in life. So let us ask, through the intercession of Saints Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati, that our young people may find the courage to say yes to Christ. Our families may be strengthened in love and faith, and our diocese be renewed in its mission. And let us prepare with hope and joy for our Congress next March, knowing that the Spirit who inspired both Carlo and Pier Giorgio is alive in us and in our church today. So to Christ be the glory in this cathedral, in this parish, in this diocese, in every home and in every heart.